Hello and warm welcome everyone. It's Marta here. Welcome back. Today, slightly different video. Unfortunately, I have to make a sympathy card and I thought I will create a whole video with bunch of the cards. This is something I'm always struggling with. I know many of my friends are also struggling with making sympathy cards. So I thought I will create a kind of like a reference video with some of the ideas for you, so you could use up as well. And then I come up with some labels, some sentiments which could be used for the occasion. There's all like a sympathy, sending you healing thoughts, forever, remember, always love, like all this kind of a message which you can use on your cards. The link to that will be on my Buy Me a Coffee page. And thank you so much everyone who decide to support me there. I'm really appreciating that. And also to all my friends who watch my YouTube channel, if you find my video helpful, if you enjoy this content, please share. Let your friends know, maybe they would like to see some ideas for the sympathy card. And not only, I do have all other cards on my YouTube channel as well. So thank you so much for your support. I'll jump to the video and I will divide this video into the chapters, so that will be easy for you to see next card. If you ever would like to come back, use it as a reference and go to a specific card, all the these cards will be divided, the video will be divided by the chapters, by each card. So I hope you enjoy it and let's make some sympathy cards together. Okay, my friends, for my very first card, I'm gonna be using the die which I've designed for a craft stash, and I will be making a large aperture in the center of the card, and I'm gonna need additional circle as well because I will be using two different colors of the paper. I'm gonna be working on ready-made card base, which is 6 by 6 inches, but they're not really exactly a square, so keep that in mind. If you have ready-made card bases, double check whether they are square, or if not, what I like to do, I like to take the pencil and rather than be worried about the measurements, I always write myself 2 dots where to cut, and I always end up having the perfect matching elements for my card. Or if you like, you can trim the card slightly and make it square that way. I also found this piece of this scrap paper in the drawer, this blue color cardstock. Well, it's actually digital paper which I've printed, and now I am kind of creating a mat for my front layer, and I'm making sure I have a little more to go outside, but also the smaller opening for my aperture. That way I will have this nice framing. And what I did here, you can also see on the video, I've marked myself 2 arrows on the both pieces of the paper. That way I know exactly how to glue them so they will have the perfect matching, because sometimes when you chop those squares or rectangle pieces which are almost square, you can have uneven frame. So it's always a good idea, once you match up your papers, just make that little arrow so you're not gonna be adhering your paper different direction and then be surprised that you don't have that perfect frame which you were supposed to have otherwise. Now, I've printed my sentiments twice because firstly, I actually printed by mistake on a copy paper, which I am having here. It's a little bit flimsy, but it's gonna be working for this technique. I was trying to keep large spaces in between the sentiments so you could still use like different little dies to cut them out. But for this opening, it's quite large, so I'm gonna be taking a space from 2 other sentiments as well. But because I have 2 copies, I have the sentiments printed on the copy paper as well as the regular cardstock, the watercolor cardstock, which I wanted to print in the first place. I'm not too much bothered by losing 2 other sentiments because I have them on another printed sheet. This is the advantage of working with digital prints, design stamps like that, that if you're gonna use up, you can always reprint another piece. But I'm trying to not be too much wasteful here. I'm gonna be using all the other sentiments, but from time to time I can just, otherwise I would have to leave really big spaces in between those sentiments, and that way instead of fitting 14 of them, I could only fit like 10 or something, and you're not always needing the large opening area anyway. So I was trying to compromise in between. For my front panel, the blue one, I actually adhere flat to the card with the sentiment behind it, but this one I'm gonna be support with double-sided foam squares. You can use the foam tape or pieces of the cardboard, doesn't really matter, as long as you have some support in the corners and also in the middle section. That way it will prevent your card from like warping and collapsing in between the corners. Make sure you just have enough support. I am adding 2 leaves and then a little bow with this tiny bit in the center of the bow, and this was actually punched from the regular hole punch. So first card is ready, and now we're gonna move on to another creation. For my card number 2, I'm gonna be also working on the same ready-made card base, but this time we're gonna do a little bit of the stamping. It doesn't matter which type of the stamp you have, whether it's a text, it's some background piece, just something to give a little bit interest and the texture to the design. That will be great. I am stamping directly on the card base, and one thing I wish to say, all my cards, they're gonna be pretty easy. They're gonna be more kind of a clean and simple, because I do believe personally that for sympathy card, this is something which requires a little bit to be more calmer, more shooting, and I would definitely not want to overly done them, make them too cheerful, too much stones, like different embellishments. I'm rather going for more clean, simple, calm look. Let me know what's your opinion about that, how you perceived your creation of the sympathy cards. I'm usually struggling with them, and I believe that there's no one here who likes doing the sympathy cards, because they always mean that we are struggling with either someone we know or someone we give the card, they know someone who's been passed away, and it's just a hard thing to do. So this is why I've decided to create the video. Maybe that will be helpful for anyone to use. Now I've cut the sentiment and I am backing it with a little piece of the paper, and I also go around the edges of this matting layer for the sentiment with the same grayish color ink. And I did some splatters here, which I didn't mention. I slightly dilute the distress oxide ink for that, because I want it to be a little bit lighter, so that will be not too dark. This is just to accent, not to be a main focal point. I'm adding the flowers with a little drop of the hot glue, and then the sentiment will be adhered on the upper right corner of the card. This is very delicate, very elegant card as well, and if you slightly switch colors, maybe create more colorful flower, that will be great for any other occasion, like a birthday or anything else. You could put like a good luck, a new job, new house, anything that will be suitable for many more occasions. Here is a little close-up look of the card, and the card number 2 is ready. We're gonna be switching to the card number 3 now, and for this card I'm gonna be playing with the old Christmassy set, just because something was released as a Christmas dice or something. Always look beyond, this could go somewhere else, and you could use it for different occasion. On this Christmas set, I believe that was Die Cutting Essential, one of the freebies in the magazine, lots of different little dice. There is this poppy head die, which I really like, and I think this will be looking nice. I wanted to create a card base, but unfortunately I scored my card in the wrong place, so I had a little bit shorter on the front. But I'm glad I did, because a second after I fold the card and I've noticed it's not even, I thought, I need to do something with it. And then I thought, oh, let me just punch the border to one side. That will give this nice lacy finish. And having the border punches, they are inexpensive, but this is a great investment. And this will allow you to create interesting borders, add layers to your card, and you are not limited for the die sizes. Like, if you've got dice, not all of them are good for extending the pattern, but with the border die you can go as long as you like, and I'm telling you, at least 1 or 2 borders that will be just, you know, precious addition to your craft. If you're new to crafting and you think like what other things you should buy, definitely I do recommend to have like 1 border punch. Here again, I'm using this punched dot just to gather all those elements together, and then I am placing sentiment is on top of that, and we have this like a little bouquet with white and black elements. And I think this card also looking very elegant, and this design, this could be used for many more occasions. It's just something, once you create the card with this black and white tone, I think it's just looking suitable for the sympathy card, and of course with sympathy sentiment on it. Card number 4. And my friends, here I've just used this very old embossing folder of mine. I don't think, I don't even remember, was it a Crafter's Companion? I believe that was. Let me know if anyone knows the embossing folder. Let me know where is it coming from, because I absolutely forgot. I had this piece of the bluish grayish color cardstock in my scraps, and I've just embossed it. Once I did that, I fussy cut this lacy line, which gave me this interesting look to put on my card, and I'm chopping one of the sentiments. And this sentiment, some of them, they have this black framing all around, but if you don't like it, like for this card, I didn't want to have this black framing, I just chop it away. And now I am adhering the sentiment on the scrap piece of the same cardstock, which I will then create a teeny tiny frame just to give me this extra, you know, element to dress up the sentiment, and it will be matching with this piece. Now, because I've embossed this paper and it's got a little bit like wonky, I wanted to use something to straighten it up and also give a little bit dimension. You can use foam tape as well, but I do find it that it's way easier to work with the cardboard. It doesn't have to be this beer mat, it doesn't have to be compressed cardboard, but any type of the cardboard, postal packaging or something, whatever you have on a hand, try to do it once or twice, and I do guarantee to you it's so much sturdier. It also gives the same dimension as the foam tape, and it's just make the card look flat, and it's less chances for the card to get you know, wonky or get destroyed, in especially if you mail it. That way, if the card is having the panel which is kind of supported with the cardboard, you don't have to be worried about putting it in a special like hardened envelope. You can just put it in a regular envelope and that will be good to go. Now I'm wrapping the string around this card, and then I'm just securing it with a drop of the glue, and I'm kind of making interesting pattern that those strings, they are crossing towards one side. They're not exactly in the center, but it's entirely up to you whether you prefer to have it on the center, left, right. It's up to you. Now the card is open sideways. I thought it's gonna be interesting rather than have top hinge. I am just experimenting here. Each card I'm trying to do slightly different, so you have interesting representation of different cards. A little close-up look, and the card number 3, is it 3 or 4? I forgot. Anyway, next card, let's move on. For my next card, I'm gonna be using the stamp and frame die, which comes from the similar collections Craft Stash & Co, which was this time designed by my friend Sandi from Decorate Your Life. Let me know in the comment down below if you know her channel. If not, I'll link it somewhere. Maybe someone will be interested to see the Sandi's video. She's making a lovely designs, and I absolutely love her cards too. Now I'm stamping it twice just so I could have this nice black image, and then I will I will not fussy cut it. I'm gonna use the matching dies to cut it out. But one thing I want to tell you, my friends, if you're gonna be cutting the elements like that, which you stamp and they have a lot of ink, it's not like a outer line, it's just like a little bit more ink, give it proper time to dry, because if you will place the stamped image like that with lots of black ink, and you will send it through your die cutting machine basically right after you stamp it, you can then make that ink sip into the cutting line of your cutting plates, and that will mean that later on, if you're gonna be cutting something from the white cardstock, and the plate will be pressing, it will come give you this little like a stains. And you want to know how I know it? Because I did it. So I'm just telling you in advance, make sure that your elements are properly dry, because I've destroyed one of the cutting plates that way, that I've stamped something and then I put it through the plate, and each time I was trying to cut something else from the white or very pale cardstock, I was just leaving the marks. Now, this time I wanted to create a not entirely die cut piece, but only the lacy pattern from the frame. If you have any dies which is similar to those one I'm using here, these ones are from the Creative Expression, and what I love in those dies is that they have a separate outer and inside edge, and then you have this lacy design in the center, and this will allow you to create a very interesting look without cutting the paper. But if you don't have anything like that, you have a regular die which has this outer edge cutting, that will be good as well. It's just something different use of the products which you already have. Maybe have a look what you have, and some of the dies you can use this way, that not necessarily you need to cut the whole shape. Now I'm gonna be adhering the sentiment from the back side, and I'm trying to kind of position it right in the center, so I know where I need to mark myself the lines with the pencil, so I could chop it to the size, so this white card, it's not gonna be visible outside the frame. That's fairly easy to do. Sometimes you just need to go 2 or 3 times just to slightly narrow it. Always cut less than more, because if you chop too much and you're gonna have a hole, you will have to use another sentiment or start use different one. So be patient with it, never chop too much. It's very easy to go back and re-chop like another piece if you need a little bit more, rather than chop too much and then you realize that your aperture is actually bigger than the sentiment piece you have to adhere from the back side. This one, for this card, I'm just gonna be adhering it flat. It's very easy, very simple. Most of this card I actually made in less than 10 minutes. And I did that purposely for 2 things. I wanted to show you that making sympathy cards, firstly, it's not as difficult and they don't require much time. So usually whenever you need a sympathy card, you don't have anything on hand, you'll be able to create something within a few seconds. Here is the close-up look of this card. And then secondly, another one card. I'm dividing the video into the parts, and I need to tell you, my friends, it's very difficult to keep my narration going, because each time I just want to say something, I'm just chopping to a next chapter. But this is the first time I've decided to divide my video into chapters, and let me know if this is something which will be helpful for you, or it's too much bother and I could skip that, because I'm getting paranoid that I'm not really keeping my my voice over accordingly to the chapters, because I was planning to do each card separately, just like chop it once the new card is start having the new chapter. Anyway, firstly, it's very easy to create those sympathy cards. So if you need it, you can make one within a 10 minutes time. And second thing, which I've already mentioned at the beginning as well, I do believe that less is better, especially when it's come to a sympathy card. I think those simpler cards, they have a little bit more something calming to them, rather than be overly done with colorful elements and embellishments, things like that. Now, this frame, this little die cut piece comes from the Paper Discovery. This is a very old set. I don't think it's really available now anymore, but if you have any trellis, anything like that, any trellis die, or you could use a piece of the embossing paper as well. If you don't have any die, you can emboss piece and then just adhere it in the same way, and then have a combination white on white look, a circular sentiment, a little piece of the string, and you're good to go. And this card is very elegant. It will go to a DL size envelope, and it's just a slightly different size for a change for someone who would like to have a little bit bigger card. And now close-up look, and we're done. Another card. I'm gonna be creating a A6 size card. Sorry, I was thinking of something else for a second. And for this card, I'm gonna be using the sentiment which is actually below this oval die I'm placing now. However, I wanted to die cut first this oval shape, so then I know where I have to trim my paper, because I wanted to use the sentiment below, and if I will chop it too high up, I won't have a space for this oval die to fit. So now I've cut this large rectangle with the sentiment in the center, which says "so sorry for your loss," and I'm trying to make a nice frame on the card base around it, so the sentiment is slightly narrower than the card base itself. I found this blue color piece of the card in my scraps. This is a very old design from the Craft O'Clock company, and I have lots of leftovers of their papers, and they're just waiting for another perfect moment, and one of them having their perfect moment today. Once I chop this rectangle from the blue color paper, I've marked 2 lines where this white sentiment is finishing, so I could tear the paper under the angle and have a little bit of this like kind of a more handmade touch to the card. Tearing the paper, distressing the edges, all these things, they are always kind of bring a little bit more handmade touch to the cards. At least that's what I'm thinking. I've placed this piece on the scoring board, and I'm making the scoring lines every single inch. You could do it a little bit more closer, like 3/4 of an inch, half an inch. It's entirely up to you. It's just something to add additional texture. When I look on this paper from the back side, and this one I need to tell you, I wanted to add the glue, and I turned the paper out, and I was like, oh wow, I actually like the other side better way. This is my constant worry with the double-sided papers. Like I'm sometimes indecisive which side I like the better, but this time I've decided that this nice floral composition, it will be an interesting add-on to my card, and because it's very calm, very soothing, I've decided to use it. So here I'm adhering this piece to the card, and the card is ready. I think this one was the quickest one from them all, but they're all really simple. Now for my next card, I'm gonna be using the remaining bit of the scrap paper, this blue color paper, but this time on the other side. So both sides get to show on this card today. Now I'm gonna be making additional 2 A6 size cards, but before I'm gonna chop the paper, I wanted to fold my paper, like score it and fold it and then chop it. I always do it in this way rather than cut first and then score and fold each piece separately, because if you cut the long edge, like you cut the A4 size card along the long edge, sometimes you could go 0.5 millimeter off, and when you fold your card, the ends, they're not gonna be even, and then you have to do more chopping. So it's easier to just fold it and then chop it in half. For this card, I've also cut the rectangle piece from the leftover pieces, the other piece which was left from the previous card, and then the sentiment. And this time I'm going for kind of like a Polaroid look. I am distressing the edges. I am just, going around each edge with my scissors, and this also got giving me this handmade look and give a little bit more dimension to the elements, especially if you work on a thinner paper. Once you distress the edges, the paper adhere a little bit more premium, like a more dimensional, I would say. Try this on the card, and maybe this is something you're gonna like. And again, for a split second I was thinking, do I use the other side? But no, this time we're going for the blue, because I like this lacy, very nice lace going across this blue panel. I am adhering the sentiment, and last thing I want to do, I'm actually gonna use the heart shape. If you don't have anything like dice in a heart shape, you can very easily draw the heart on the piece of the card and then just fussy cut it. And again, because I use the scissors on these elements and I distress all the edges, I'm gonna do the same with this heart shape. So I'm very gently going over the edges, making sure I won't tear it. Once I have the edges distressed, then I am tearing the heart in half. So this will be kind of you representing like a broken heart, and that you join with someone in a pain. You know, this is just addition to the card. I thought it will be a nice quick design to use as well. And that's gonna be my card number 8, I believe. And now we're gonna move to the card number 9. For this card, I've grabbed my very old foil, which I use for smooshing and other bits whenever I know I'll be just making, you know, things dirty to protect my surface. So I've been using the same foil over and over again, and I've smeared some grayish color inks there, and I am adding the watercolor paper on top. This card base is made from the watercolor paper, and every time I do smooshing technique, I prefer to work on this paper because it's less warping, and I think that the color are actually moving nicer on a watercolor paper. Plus you can use way more liquids, something which is more wet, and you know, it's just it's not crumbling. Some of the papers, they could crumble whenever they get wet, so I always like to use watercolor paper if I know I'll be working with water. I also adding couple of the splatters with the white calligraphy ink and this mild lavender one, because this little foil, this foil which I was using for smooshing technique, it has some pinkish tone, pinkish purple color tone, dirty from something else. I've decided to add some splatters to accent that additional color. Once I am heating my surface, what I like to do, I am blowing the heat on the watercolor paper. Make sure to, you know, get all the water dry, so the color, it's not gonna be moving anymore. And then what I like to do, I am pressing the stamping block, either one or two, on the top of it, just for a minute. You literally just need to leave it there for 60 seconds, and that will iron the whole bit for you, and it's gonna be perfectly flat. To add even more interesting look to this card, I found this very old image with the feather. I thought it's gonna be a nice addition to the card, just have some stamping background, and whatever you have, that could be a little flower or maybe heart, something, you know, little, you could create additional background, you know, elements to your card base. I am stamping it directly on the card base. This is gonna be another flat card, easy for postage, and it's not really difficult. All I did is just smoosh the palm with different grayish color inks, and then stamp couple of these fern, what is the feather images. Now I am adding the sentiment with the tape, just to raise it up a little bit. Hello my friends, that's me finished now. I was planning to make 10 cards, but I've only managed to make 9. My boys are coming back home, so I'll need to wrap it up because it's a dinner time now. But still, I think that we've got a nice representation, different styles and ideas for the sympathy card. And if you find this video useful, please don't forget to click a share button to interact with the video in some way, either like or comment, send it through messenger to your friend or post it on your Facebook. That will be a huge support for my channel. Let me know also in a comment what other occasion are you struggling with, what other occasion cards you would like me to come up with some ideas. And don't forget to check the Buy Me a Coffee page as well, where you will find this free digital stamps, sentiments for the sympathy cards. I am sending you all hugs, stay blessed, and bye bye.